Welcome to Somerset Overtime, a show about sports in Somerset. In every high school sport, it's important to have a good feeder system, and we have them for baseball and softball and hockey with the youth leagues. And another one that we have in town is the Raiders Wrestling Club, which is going to help to feed the wrestling program at the high school. And we're here with Bob Ragonesi, who is the one who runs that program.
Yes.
Welcome, Bob.
Thanks, George. Thanks for having me.
Can you tell me, well, first of all, what is the age group for the Raiders Wrestling Club?
USA Wrestling allows you to teach kids as young as 5 years old. And that's the insurance issue of it. Okay. Because every kid has to have a USA Wrestling card, and it's 5 years old is limit. So we do basically kindergarten to 8th grade.
Okay.
Right before high school. Anything before high school we do. But they won't allow, as far as the insurance, it's not allowed to be below 5 years old.
Okay. I get a kick out of seeing the 5 and 6 year olds wrestle. I
yeah,
just think that's so funny. So what do you teach these kids? So you start, obviously you must start with the fundamentals.
Sure, and it's just the first day thing, stance, right? Stay in a good stance. Your lines of defense, your hands are your first lines of defense, right? You got to always keep there. Good balance with the stance, never to cross your feet. We do a lot of gymnastics with the little kids, shoulder rolls, cartwheels, crab walks, walking on your hands, and just stuff like that, just to get them moving and also get them used to. A lot of kids are used to roughhousing, but like tackle each other, falling down on the mat. Not, some kids they fall down, they come to tears. But we try to work them through that as far as, all right, you're okay, look, you're not hurt, and then just to get them used to being in close contact and falling down, and then we stop building the wrestling skills from there. But first thing you got to do is get them comfortable on the mat and comfortable in close quarters. Kids with siblings always do better because obviously that's already going on in the home, and 99% of the parents go, oh wow, look, nothing changed, just like at home, except now he's actually has a little bit of technique to it, so it's funny.
So you have them from like beginner to advanced.
Right. We have 4 or 5 8th graders this year, and in the past few years we've actually had 7 state champions come out of our program.
Wow.
Different age groups and different weights, but they're getting better, and certainly some kids advance a little quicker than others. We've had a few kids that have been in the program 4 years maybe, and they're not the best wrestlers, but they have a smile on their face all the time. They get out there and they try. They don't win much, but again, at this point, even in any other sport, it's not about winning at all at this sport. Wrestling is, you have to have hundreds of matches under your belt to be used to, being under the pressure. Remember, there's no teammates out there with you. There's nobody. The parents can't go out there. I can't go out there and help you. You're in the middle of a mat in front of, at the youth level, a lot of parents there. So there could be hundreds of people, and you're out there all by yourself. And for a kid to be brave to get out there and do that, it takes a lot, Basketball, baseball, football, you're all pushed out there with a bunch of other kids. Wrestling, it's like, hey, good job, go get them. And so we just want to get them out there, get them as much experience as they can. And then as the matches go on, as they get more experience, more practices, because we go live in practice, we try to make them wrestle, full speed. And then after every practice, we have a game. This way they don't leave exhausted or, oh, I just got beat up, let's say. And I don't want to come back to this. So we always end the practice in the last 15 or so minutes with a game. We have 4 or 5 different games that we play. And they all leave laughing and happy. And so then they come back for the next time, right? But yeah, some kids are better than others. They take to it. Other kids take a few years, and all of a sudden that light bulb goes on in 1 year, where last year maybe they didn't win 1 match. Now they're coming back, they haven't been beat. Or they've only lost 1 match this year. We've had that every single year. We see that happen. So it's good. I love to see the progress when the kids keep coming back, and they're happy to see you, and then they get right back in, and all of a sudden, oh, you learned something from last year. They're like, yeah, coach, we've been practicing, and so I like it.
So how many coaches do you have that work with the kids?
Right now, between 5 and 7 coaches. A few of the fathers that were former wrestlers, they help out when they can. They can't be there every time. But then I have Rob Perdero, who was a firefighter also with me. He basically founded the club with me. Him and I, the reason we even started this club was we were sitting around one day, and we both have 2 sons, and we were like, well, what are we going to do? There's not really any place around here for these kids to wrestle. There was a club in Warren that's a very good club that we're in good contact with them. But driving all the way to Kickamute Middle School, and then they moved. They went all the way into the end of Bristol, down the end of 103. So that's brutal trying to get down there at 4:30 in the afternoon or 5 o'clock. So I went to Mr. Schoonover, and I asked him. I told him my idea. This is what I want to do. I want to start a program, and he couldn't be more helpful. The only issue he had, he was nervous. Well, listen, I need insurance. I can't let you on school property if these kids are not insured. So everything is done right through USA Wrestling. I chartered a club through them. You pay a fee, and then you take. All my coaches have to have background checks, safe sport training for concussions, training as far as protecting the children from predators and everything else. That would go down the line. And so all my coaches are all certified through USA Wrestling. We all have our USA cards, and the facility, as Mr. Schoonover allows us the use of North Elementary Gym, which is great. But every year when we charter, we put on the charter insurance North Elementary as insured gym, so no liabilities on the school department at all. So everything's on us, and then every child that wrestles for us has to buy a $20 USA Wrestling card, and that insures them to, during, and from any USA event. And our practice is considered a USA event. And in our gym, because it's insured through USA Wrestling, is a venue for USA. So everything's 100% covered through them. School has no liability, and he could not have been more helpful. He got us a new mat, not a new mat, I shouldn't say that. He let us use an old mat that actually I used to wrestle on in the early 90s when I wrestled at Durfee. When we wrestled over here, it was the blue mat with the Raider guy on it. He let us borrow that, and still 900 pounds. It's still the same mat. It's just so old. But we were very thankful. So for the first 6 years, that's the mat we used. Last year we did a fundraiser. We bought our own mat, a brand new mat. So we gave that mat back to the high school. And just anything we need. He's like, oh yeah, anytime. Mr. Vaccaro, Robin, who's his secretary, she's my point of contact when I get to Mr. Schoonover, and she couldn't be more helpful. Everybody, the custodians, Jeff Alves and Jay Burrs over there at the elementary school. Those guys are aces. Anything we need, you need a table. The doors are always unlocked. Everything's always clean. So those guys really, really help a lot, and it's been, it's certainly a group effort. I could never do it by myself. Right, I need all the administrators to hook us up as far as buildings and mats and allowing us to train there, and then all the facilities people. They're doing their job too, and we're not in the way, but we go there. But doesn't matter. They couldn't be more helpful. They're always doing anything they can for us. Asking, you guys all set? Everything you need? So it's good to see everybody come together. And then also Quinn Fallon, who's a police officer now in town, and he's a head wrestling coach.
At the high school.
At the high school, correct. And he couldn't be more helpful. Anything you guys need, he comes over every so often with his wrestlers. They come over and they go into practice. And the kids love to see the high school kids, right? Because they're cooler than us. They're those old guys trying to tease them, right? All these young studs. So he's done that more than a few times in the last few years. So it's great that everybody kind of joins together and comes together as far as to help our program. We have no resistance whatsoever. Everybody's been super, super friendly to us. And our program has grown in 7 years. We started this in 2017, and now we're here in 24, and we started with 24 wrestlers, and this year we had 81 sign up.
Wow.
Yeah. So we actually had to get another piece of mat. Durfee High School gave us a piece of their real old mat that I used to wrestle on when I was a first year wrestler at Durfee back in '98. They had one because they built a brand new school, so they had some old stuff out in lockers out in the parking lot. And Mr. Brad Buston, he's the AD over there, he said, well, you can take that if you want. So again, even though we didn't want to, another 600-pound piece of wrestling mat, we dragged it back because we needed our brand new mat plus that piece because now we have so many kids. But it's a good problem to have. There's no issue with that.
The word must have spread about how good of a program it was.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's mostly how, we have a Facebook page, Raiders Wrestling Club. But we keep it private, just family and friends of the kids. Because when I tell the parents, if you don't want your child's picture on this website, on the Facebook, just tell me. We won't. We'll make sure. Because some parents don't want their kids out there. Other parents don't care. They'll put it out on their own, So, but that's one thing we definitely make sure of. We make sure all the parents are comfortable if any pictures are taken and this and that. But, it's a good program, and a lot of word of mouth, a lot of kids, so the kids play football, they play other sports. Oh, we got 6 or 7 kids from this baseball team, or 3 or 4 kids from this football team. Okay, let's go, bring them on.
Yeah, I've talked to some high school football players in the past who have told me that wrestling benefits their football,
no question about
and
it.
vice versa.
Yeah.
Um,
Wrestling, as far as linebackers and linemen, that's all wrestling is. It has so much advantage for them because it's footwork, it's hand fighting, it's, when you're in tons of wrestling matches, you're used to being in the fire and in a good competition head to head. So now you're using your hand fighting, you're moving your feet, and it's all wrestling. So linemen and linebackers really, Ray Lewis, a 2-time Florida state champion. Adam Vinatieri was a state wrestling champion. Stephen Neal, who played for the Patriots 10 years, he won 2 Super Bowls. He never played college football. He was an NCAA wrestling champion who beat Brock Lesnar in the finals. He tried out for the Patriots, and they were going to cut him because they tried him on defensive line, and he wasn't really going too fast at the quarterback. And they're like, Coach Belichick said, "Hey, Steve, you wrestled, right?" "Yeah, Coach. Why don't you try the offensive line?" Where he became a 2-time Pro Bowl, a 2-time Super Bowl champ, and played 10 years for the Pats. And now he's back in California at Cal State Bakersfield as the head wrestling coach where he went to college.
You've seen that movie, The Replacements, haven't you?
Yes, yeah.
So Gene Hackman, the coach in that movie, he gets a sumo wrestler to be a lineman, and he explains why, because of the skills of the
Right.
wrestling.
Yeah, so and there's sometimes when I was the head coach at Durfee High School for a while, and sometimes we would go to the football practices afterwards, before wrestling season, and try to recruit these kids. And I'll tell you, it's unfortunate. A lot of people are like, it's too tough. We don't want to do that. And we're going to lift in the wintertime, and we're not just going to, guys, you can lift in the spring. We're going to lift during the season. It's not like we don't lift, but I try to explain the benefits of them. We hung up posters of every NFL player that ever wrestled, right? And it only got a few, but not as much as you would think it would get. And it seems that Somerset is really starting to get all these kids to wrestle. Because Coach Freitas, his son Emmett actually wrestled for us for the last few years.
Okay.
Now he wrestles for the Dighton program only because they live out there. I mean, it's a lot closer.
Yeah, Somerset's kind of getting a resurgence in wrestling. A long time ago, when Nick Peachy was the coach, it was very popular.
Sure.
And then for whatever reason, it fell off, and now Quinn is getting it going again.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and that was another reason for our program. One was so Bob and I could have a place for our sons to wrestle, but also, I'm from Fall River. I wrestled for Durfee. I was the head coach over there. So I didn't want to see that program fall apart, and it was starting to. Then they had to co-op with Somerset. Somerset's program was falling apart, so I'm like, if we can have an area feeder program and get kids interested, maybe both of these schools we can lift back up. Now, I'm not saying that we're totally responsible for everything, but I'm sure we had a hand in it because both of the programs now have over 30 kids in it. They're young teams, both of them. They're growing pains when you're young. There's a lot of tough teams out there, but they have full rosters. They have good coaches. Mike McMahon, who's been a coach previously at Durfee High School, he just got inducted into the Durfee High Hall of Fame actually for football wrestling. So he's back as coach, and he's a teacher. So he understands how to coach. He's a good guy. And then you have Quinn, and they work together. They have co-practices sometimes. Durfee's already been to Somerset. They've had maybe 60 kids over there. It was a big, giant practice. So that was fun. And then, with our program, we have kids, a lot of kids from Fall River, a lot of kids from Somerset, Swansea, and that's where they're going to go. They're going to go to these schools, The ones who don't go to Voc schools are going to go to either Durfee or Somerset Berkeley. So, it's definitely trending upward. We're happy about it. We love it.
Now, what's your background in wrestling?
Yeah, it's funny enough. I never wrestled at all as a kid. Wrestling to me as a young kid was WWF, Hulk Hogan.
Yes, I remember.
Right? So I loved it. Go to the Bank Street Armory, right? See all the superstars. It wasn't like these big arenas back then. They'd come. So my Uncle Wayne would always take me. We'd go. It was a great time. So.
Much different.
Right.
Yeah.
But I played Pop Warner football for the Schooners in Tiverton because Fall River did not have a team when I played. And there was no team around, so Fall River kids played in Tiverton. So we played for the Schooners. So I did that for 4 years. Then we'd go to high school and play football. So now, when I went to high school, that was right as the back-to-back state championships were going to happen for Durfee with basketball. The Mike Herron years, right?
Okay.
So the whole school was, I was all about basketball. So, all right, why not? I played basketball CYL, right? Just little rec leagues. So I tried out for the basketball team my freshman year, and thank thank goodness I didn't make the team. Because, things could be a whole lot different, right? So I wasn't very good. I was more of a bruiser, more of a box out, and a hacker. So I look at the list after the first 2 days of tryouts. My name's not on the list. Okay. So I'm walking by, there's a wrestling room at Durfee High School in the back of the field house as you walk back to get to the locker room. And I remember the door being open, and a few of my friends that I knew, from growing up were older kids, and like, oh, Rags, where you going? No, I'm going home. I didn't make the basketball team, so. And the wrestling coach just happened to be standing right there, who's now one of my best friends. He's my son's godfather, Mike Pereira. He actually grabbed me by the arm and goes, you're not going home. Get in there. Nowadays, I don't know if you could do that anymore, but he's like, you're going to wrestle. I don't know. And then once I get in the room, my friends were like, oh, good, just stay here, just wrestle. It's going to be fun. I'm like, all right, whatever. I don't know where to go. And, 37 years later, still I am, thankfully. Just right, just the right time, because wrestling, some of my closest friends and fondest memories and just, the people I'm close to are through the sport of wrestling. And I'm thinking, what if I was just a little bit better at basketball and then that whole thing never happened? I mean, who knows?
It's funny how those things happen.
Yeah.
I joined the track team in high school when I got cut from the baseball team, and track ended up being my
now you run all the
sport.
time, right?
I was an okay baseball player, but if I didn't get cut from the baseball team, I never would have been a runner.
Right. So, and then, I did that, and then I went in the military after high school. And when I came back, I went back and was the assistant coach for 3 years when we had the undefeated teams with Dan LePage wrestling, Chris Martel, all those guys. Bob Badero, who's my best friend, he wrestled. He was on those teams. I was like the assistant coach for those guys.
Is he the one when you send me the results? One of those kids is always winning something.
Yeah, he's a little guy. Yeah. So Alan Valois, his two boys were always winning state titles. Alan wrestled for Durfee when I was there. Bob wrestled. I'm probably like 6 years older than those guys. So once I get out of the military, those guys were just in high school then.
Okay.
And then in 2009, 8 or 9, forget the year, I took over from Mike McMahon the first time. Mike left and he went to, I think he actually came to Somerset not too long after.
He won a state championship in Somerset.
He did.
And it's the only state championship in wrestling they've ever won as a team.
So it's funny, you remember Eric Francis?
I do.
Right, he was a coach. Eric's a good friend of mine too. So the whole joke with Eric was, I'm like, hey, it takes a Durfee guy to make you guys win state championships, right? So when Mike came, he had taken over for Eric. Eric built the team, right? Yeah. And that's acknowledged by everybody. Mike took over, like Barry Switzer with the Cowboys, right? It was one of those things.
Yeah, Jimmy Johnson had already built.
So he won the states, and then a few years ago, Eric was the head coach at Mount Hope High School in Bristol, and Mike Pereira went over there as his assistant, and they won the Rhode Island State Championship. So I used to call him Eric, just all you needed was that Durfee guy over there to win state titles, right? Like, you got, so that was a funny little joke we used to have fun.
Quinn is a Somerset Berkeley guy.
He is, state champion. Him winning his match, he won in quadruple overtime, right? They call it sudden victory in wrestling. Him winning his match made the team win the state tournament. I'm pretty sure if he didn't win that match, if he took second place, Dedham was going to win the state tournament. So you get 15 advancement points if you get for a champion in each weight class. And had he lost, I think I'm almost 99% positive they were not going to win the state. They were going to come in second. But him winning the way he did, and in the quadruple overtime, it was pretty impressive. That's one way to go out, right? Last match of your senior year, you win the heavyweight state title, and your team wins it. That's amazing. You can't write the script like that.
And he's one of those guys who was also a football player.
Correct.
And then he's also now an assistant football coach. So
you're right. He's the head JV football coach and varsity assistant. Right?
So he can recruit some of those guys.
Well, that's it. Exactly. You're going to play for Quinn. You're going to wrestle, right? And Coach Freitas, I'm not sure what his stance on wrestlers were before this, but now, like I said, his little boy Emmett's been wrestling for a few years now. So now he can see things, and now he has Quinn in his ear, I'm sure. So now it's all right, let's go, boys, let's get on that wrestling mat.
I know Nick is very into weight training and physical fitness in general.
Of course.
And so I'm sure he sees that in wrestling.
Right. And that's the thing. Like I dealt with football coaches over the years in different schools where like, I don't want my kids to get hurt and wrestle. I want them to lift all winter. I'm like, you have no idea what you're talking about, because the cardio they're going to get, the physical fitness, just the mental toughness they're going to get by wrestling, and the balance and the skill that they're going to get just goes right to football. right? Lifting, we're going to lift during the season, and then they're going to lift all spring, all summer long, get ready. But you should have these kids wrestle. Some of them would just fight you tooth and nail. It was crazy. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, one of the kids on Somerset, the last Super Bowl team for the football team in Somerset, he was a great wrestler. I think he was a better wrestler than he was a football player. And I think he won a state championship, and he went far, and he ended up, he played football in college. But
Was it Luke Varian?
no, it
Because
was,
Luke's
Al,
with
it
us.
was Almeida. I can't remember his first name. I know his last name was Almeida, but good football player and a great wrestler. He was good.
Well, they had Austin Cooley, who unfortunately for Somerset, he got plucked away after his sophomore year. He was a state champion his sophomore year for Somerset. And then he got recruited by Wyoming Seminary out of Pennsylvania. And they're the number 2 ranked prep school in the whole nation.
Yeah.
So, right. And then his senior year, he was 197 national champion, prep school champion. And now he's wrestling Division I for West Virginia. You know,
That's unbelievable.
yeah, he's such a good kid. Every time when he comes home on Christmas break, he'll show up at practice. So this year he went to the Raiders, the high school practice, because we had practice on off nights. He was only home for so long, but he did go over there to one practice and helped out over there. And Andrew Fallon, who wrestled for Durfee as an 8th grader, but then wrestled for Bishop Hendricken and Ryder. He was a 2-time New England champion, and he's wrestling Division I at Sacred Heart right now. And he's the same thing. When he comes back, he comes to our practice. He comes hang out. He teaches the kids. And it's like, these guys are amazing, and they always give back. It's always when these guys leave, they always come back and they always want to practice and coach and do this. Hey, absolutely.
So, what do you think are the biggest benefits of wrestling for kids?
A big thing lately. Well, not lately, I guess, but that's really been on the spotlight is bullying, right?
Yeah.
Wrestlers. Of course, there's always outliers, unfortunately, but wrestlers, for the most part, never going to be bullies. That's just out of the question, and they're not ever going to get bullied. So that's a big thing, okay? You're giving these kids confidence, you're giving them life skills, because wrestling is, in my opinion, is life just in a little microcosm. You only get what you put into it. There's nobody else going to help you, right? Yeah. If you dog it in practice all the time, when you go out, you think you're going to go out on a match and turn it on, it just doesn't work like that, right? You're going to get experience just when things are tough. Can you get through it? Can you persevere through it? Maybe you don't the first few times, and all of a sudden you start doing it. Oh, that's right, the light bulb goes on, okay? They give these kids confidence. They get to hold their head high. They're proud. Again, they're not bullies. They're not going to be bullies. And they just, that gets them in shape, right? The parents are happy that they go to sleep early after wrestling practice nights, right? So, those are big qualities. And just self-confidence, way to keep their head up high, determination, the realization they know how they have to work hard to get what they want. And I really believe that it helps kids immensely. I think every kid should do a combat sport, jiu-jitsu, maybe kickboxing or wrestling. I think all kids should at least try it. Because we've had kids who the parents were like, oh, my son's really meek, or I don't know, he's kind of, I'm like, listen, let's let him try it. He's not going to get hurt. Okay, it's not MMA. Nobody's going to punch him in the face or kick him. Okay, it's just wrestling. The worst is going to happen is going to get put on the mat. Now, kids don't like somebody being on top of them, so that's sometimes freaks kids out. And but they're not going to get injured, let's say.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you should see some of those kids. They just take to wrestling. You wouldn't think so. This kid, he's just he's very nervous. But then you start getting out there wrestling, and he's got a big smile on his face. And even sometimes they're not the best right away. Like I said, they get beat, but you'll get kids just pop right up, big smile. All right, let's start again. And then after a few years, all of a sudden they're winning, and the parents are like, oh my God, I can't believe this. I never thought in a million years he would take to wrestling. And I'm like, it's just, And again, there's a lot of great coaches around the state of Massachusetts and in Rhode Island. Because you ain't doing it for the money. If you coach wrestling for the money, you better be a guy that coaches Iowa, Penn State, make a few $1 million. But that's about it. Any other person, you do it because you love the sport. Excuse me. But it's we love the sport, and that's how we teach it. There's no yelling or screaming at these kids like, oh, come on. Now, do your voices get raised when they're wrestling and you're coaching them? You're trying to help them, of course, because there's a million people yelling and screaming, right? And we, if our voices get raised, it's enthusiastic, right? So it's not, and not to knock any other sport, but I've seen other coaches, right? I've been around the great Skip Karam, right? I've watched him coach those basketball players, and they got an earful a bunch of times when they didn't do what they were supposed to. Where, we realize we're coaching kids, Okay, sometimes kids are gonna have a bad day. Sometimes we'll be talking. The kids will have their own conversation over there. Like, hey guys, come on, look up here, pay attention. Don't be talking to your friends. And if they keep doing it, which that doesn't usually happen, we'll just go sit over there with your parents until you can pay attention. Then they go, all right, sorry. There's no yelling and screaming. It's all motivational. Or you can do it. Pat on the back, atta boy, atta girl, right? And I think the way we coach, my coaching staff and I, is just these kids love it, and that's why they want to come back. We don't make them feel bad. We don't yell at these kids. We again, raise our voice sometimes, like to make sure you're paying attention now. All right, come on, we can do it. Let's go. And they all love it. And I'll tell you, the girls are the best to coach because they all pay attention, right? So you look at all the girls, they're all on a knee, they're looking at me, they're, yes, coach. You look at the boys, half of them are punching each other, looking up at the ceiling, rolling around, still wrestling with each other while you're trying to talk, and the girls are right on their knee. Yes, coach. I love it.
You know what? I hear that in the other sports too. They say the girls are more disciplined.
Yeah, it's funny.
But I mean, as far as like you said, one of the benefits is staying in shape. And I know when you get to be like a high school wrestler and older, you have to worry about staying at a certain weight. Do you worry about that as much in these younger age groups?
No, not at all. There's zero weight cutting in youth wrestling.
Okay.
And because what they do is they do what they call Madison weights. They'll group a weight class. Let's say from 80 to 90 pounds. They'll get 6 kids that are in between those weights, and they'll group them all together, and they'll have it in a tournament. It'll be a round robin. Everybody will wrestle everybody, and the winner, obviously, is the one who doesn't lose. But they don't. And then as you like the middle school kids, if they have bracketed weight classes, it'll be like a 5-pound difference. The 110 to 115 pounds in there. We'll group those 8 kids together. So it's not like there's no set weight classes in the youth wrestling. So now once you get to high school, now there's weight classes. Now there's 14 weight classes in high school. There's only 10 in college. Right? It starts at 125 pounds in college. In high school, it starts at 106 pounds. And then it goes up to 285. 285 is the cap at college and in high school, the heavyweight division. So it used to be unlimited, which I still think it should be, because if kids are that big, they're not big, giant, strong, man. They're kind of, let's say just heavy. So it's not, I don't think it's a threat to hurt anybody. It's not like the guys Andre the Giant working in there. But there were some big kids. But it's, there's no real weight issues. And now, even when I started coaching, so this is back in 2008, they have what you call a minimum weight certification. Before every season, you have to go to the trainer or to the doctor, and you get a fat test, basically. Freshmen and sophomores, less because they're younger, so you can only lose, and I don't know exactly, don't quote me on that, let's say 5% of your body weight, 5% for where you certify it. So if I want to weigh in at 150 pounds, that's the weight class I want to weigh in, and I weigh 155 pounds, whatever, my body fat, however their formula is. Once you certify with your doctor, it's registered through Massachusetts, through wrestling, MIAA, that you can only get to this anyway. Even if you got to the weight class below it, you'd be illegal. You wouldn't be able to wrestle in it, and your coach would be in trouble. So, but now juniors and seniors, I believe, can lose, let's say, 10% of their body fat, body weight, because they're older. Their bodies are more mature, so they allow that a little more. So that's how it goes. So there's no more of that, hey, you got to cut 20 pounds in 3 weeks, and there's this, with the trash bags and the jump rope in the shower, with the showers turned down high, right? There's no more of that. Because you get in trouble for that.
I've heard some stories about that.
Oh, of course. My Uncle Steve was like that. He was a guy that would lose 12 pounds in a day. He had to wrestle that night. He was 12 pounds over at Durfee, right? They'd go in the shower where all the showers were before you walked in the pool, turn them all on high, go out and start jumping rope with all the steam, with the trash bags, and be on the bus with the gum in your mouth, spitting in a cup while you're running in place until you get there, and then you make weight, and then no problem. But you just can't do that anymore. The coach would be fined, and the program would be in trouble.
Now, when kids sign up for the youth wrestling program, what do they need to have? Do they need the wrestling shoes?
Right, they need to buy shoes and headgear, which you can get right on Amazon. It's for youth headgear, it's like $15. And a lot of kids who leave our program to either go to high school or just they don't come back, we'll just donate the headgear back to the program. So we got a bucket of those, and also shoes, because shoes don't get worn out. The kids have them, and we don't allow them to wear them to and from practice. You got to take them off and come with something else. I don't want you to with shoes on our new mats. Plus the hygiene factor of it.
Yeah.
So, and the kids, let's say the small kids, to grow out of these shoes so fast 1 year, the parents all just donate them back. I have a whole big giant bucket full of brand new wrestling sneakers tied together so when people come in, they can just pick them. But again, those are only like 30, 40 bucks for kids anyway. It's not much.
How much is it to wrestle for the year?
Well, we only charge $100, which is
Wow.
for 4 months. It's nothing. And what that is it buys us disinfectant for our mats. It buys us new mops when we need them, new pads for the mops, mat tape, which is expensive. We have to tape the mats together before every practice or they'll slide apart. It goes towards some tournament entry fees for some kids. You know, most kids can swing it, but you know, if ever there's an issue, we'll have money for that. We have hotels. Sometimes we got to travel. We will still go stay up at a hotel the night before. We'll get some rooms for the kids. You know, and but that's all. It's not done for money. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, no, it sounds pretty inexpensive as compared to the other sports, based on what you just told me.
I just paid for my son. Just got picked up for a spring football league, tackle football league. It was $3 something, right? Just for that, and then you know everything. Now you got to buy your own cleats, and you know you get your helmet, and shoulder pads, and everything. But now everything else you got to buy. Oh, you want a new jersey with your name on it? That's another $75. You know, so with us, we have a vendor who makes our singlets for us, and they're $55. And I put the parents in contact with the vendor, so it kind of takes it out of my hands. So, and you don't need a singlet if you're not going to compete. If you don't feel like you want your child to compete, don't buy one. So those are not even mandatory, right? And what we give the kids is we give them a practice gear. We give them shorts and t-shirts to wear because we want them to all look the same, and we also want to make sure they're clean because that's a big thing in wrestling too. Some parents were worried, oh, what about the skin issues right here, like ringworm and this and that. Well, knock on wood, in 7 years we've never had one issue because every single practice before practice, the coaches, whoever's there, is usually me or Bob. We roll the mat out, we dry mop it, get all the dust and everything off, all the glitter from being on the gym floor, all the papers. We dry mop it and then we spray it down with our disinfectant and mop it before every single practice. So there's mats spotless before those kids step on it. So, we make sure that's all done. And so there's never been an issue. There's no weight cutting. So all a kid would need to wrestle with us is get some shoes, get headgear, and buy that $20 USA Wrestling card. And when they sign up, they just got to send. We have Jessica Glass. She's she's basically our team mom. We couldn't do it without her. She does a lot for us. She handles a lot of the registration stuff at the tables when Bob and I are coaching. So she makes sure when every kid comes to sign up that they have the number. It's a 9-digit USA number. They have it, and then me being chartered as a director of the program through USA Wrestling, every time a kid signs up and affiliates with our team, I get the email like George Orson just signed up. He's this age and here's his USA number. It'll come up with your card and your picture on it. So I have all those on file if I ever need them. And again, thankfully that's never happened either. So, we're going there. Safety is, of course, our number one concern with these kids. Safety first, making sure they have fun. Third is then teaching them wrestling. And that's it. Because if you do things out of order, if you sacrifice their safety to think that you're going to try to make them a better wrestler or this and that, it's all going to go haywire. Somebody's going to get hurt, or they're just not going to like it. And if you go with trying to make them a better wrestler before they have fun, they're going to be like, yeah, I'm all set. Some kids might not. Some kids might be all about it, right? Or the kids who are forced to do it. I don't want that either. Sometimes you can see a kid who doesn't want to be there, and I'll talk to him. Hey, what's up? Everything all right? Yeah, but you can just feel the heart's not into it. And a lot of those kids don't last. But I wouldn't want a kid who doesn't want to be there anyway. Some parents get overzealous, but I haven't really had any issues as far as our program in the last 7 years. But I've seen it in high schools or other programs. Like you go to these big statewide tournaments and you just, unfortunately that's the sign of the times these days. Some of the parents are just like, oh my God.
You see that in every sport.
It is.
Your season goes from when to when? We
start the first Tuesday in November. We go on Tuesday and Thursday nights, starting in November, and then we run it until right about the end of February. It's coming up on February 18th is the middle school state championship, and that's going to be out in Methuen High School. So
that's a ride.
Yeah, I know. I was out there last year too. But we're going to host the sectionals this year, which is the tournament to qualify for the state. So on February 11th, the Mass South Sectional 5 through 8 sectional tournament is going to be at Somerset Berkeley Regional.
Oh.
So we put in for that.
That should be a big deal.
Oh yeah, that's going to be great. It's gonna be fun. So, but that's a big undertaking because now I got to get a ton of volunteers. Quinn in his high school, his wrestlers are going to help us out. That's a huge help. They're going to work the tables for work the clocks, and for the referees. My parents group is helping with concessions. Some of my family and other coaches' family are going to work the door, the admissions, and just making sure everything runs smooth. The day before, I have a bunch of the dads. We're all going to set the gym up. We're going to put 5 mats down. So Bristol Aggie is graciously letting us borrow one of their brand new mats. So we have 3 from Somerset. I have my own. We're going to bring over from North, and then we're going to go get Bristol Aggies. We'll have 5 mats now, and it's going to be fun.
That's something the public could come to.
Well, absolutely. Yep.
Maybe parents who are interested in maybe having their kids wrestle, maybe that would be
absolutely.
something for them to see if it might be for them.
For sure. That's going to be Sunday, February 11th, Super Bowl Sunday, but it'll be done by 4 o'clock. So kickoff's not till 6:30, and the Patriots on in it anyway, right? So who cares? A good thing also, we're going to have 2 dual meets against 2 other local wrestling programs. One of them is tonight, right before the Somerset Berkeley, and I want to say Middleborough, maybe tonight they're wrestling. But it's senior night for Somerset. But anyway, we're wrestling Dayton Falcons Wrestling Club tonight, starting at 5:30. We're going to have 14 matches, just like the high school, with the referees coming early. Me and the other coach we're paying him, cash. What he would make for a high school duel, we're going to make up so he can come early. So the kids are going to get to wrestle in a high school experience with the scoreboard, everything, all the fans. And then on February 7th, we're doing the same thing before the Petrillo Cup match at Durfee High School, but we're going to wrestle against the Warren team.
Okay.
So we're doing the same thing. We'll have 14 matches, and it's Durfee senior night that night.
Okay.
So, again, my program, I like to think that we're a feeder program for Durfee and for Somerset, for both towns. So that's why I like to be a part of both of those events. It's pretty good. And then we get, of course, the Petrillo Cup. That was always one of the biggest matches of the year, when I wrestled, because my junior year was Coach Peachy's first. They had a club team. They weren't quite exactly a varsity team yet by MIAA. It was their first year, so they could wrestle, but it wasn't counted, I guess, if you say. But he used to come over and practice with us all the time because he was just not learning how to wrestle. Nick knew how to wrestle, but just running practices, and Mike would work with him. And but then my senior year was their first year as a varsity program. That was our first match. We wrestled Somerset for opening day. It was cool.
Yeah, that was always a big match because obviously Petrillo had connections to both towns, but they've changed it. They always used to have that match on
New Year's Eve.
Yep.
It's funny. I got married on New Year's Eve when I was the head coach, and we had the big match during the day, like that morning. So I was like, go there, coach that match, go home, take a shower, get dressed, and go off to the party.
How many tournaments do you wrestle in during the year?
Usually 6 or 7 tournaments we do during the year, and then a few just dual matches, like head-to-head against another program.
Okay.
So we do that. We wrestle in Rhode Island. We do the Southern Rhode Island circuit. We go to Johnston, Warwick. Where were the other ones? Middletown. Middletown's a good one. And then also we go up out in Massachusetts. We do North Attleboro, Milford. Milford has a good tournament. It's the Hockomock League. They got good programs out there. And we went for a quad match this year out in Plainville, out near Foxborough out there with Kryptonite Wrestling Club. There was Situate was out there, New England Gold, which is out of Franklin, and I forget what the other team was. I guess Situate, New England Gold, others, and the Kryptonite team. So we did that as far as dual meet. It was every hour we just kept switching. So every team wrestled every team, and then we're doing our 2 duels coming up. One tonight, one on the 7th. We just came back from Chelmsford this past Sunday. It was the elementary school state championships, the K through 4, because they run 2 different tournaments. They run a 5 through 8 and a K through 4. So we had a couple of silver medalists, and we had Dawson Pavo. He's one of our newer kids, a big fella. Another one, always got a smile on his face. He just won the elementary school heavyweight state championship. So it was cool. And so that that was good. Last year we had 3 state champions in that tournament. This year just 1, but the other kids really wrestled well. We had a couple of runner-ups, a couple of 4th places, right? So, and now coming up on the 11th is going to be the 5 through 8 sectionals, which we're going to get to host, and hopefully our kids will do well, and we'll get a lot of kids. going on to states the week after. It's gonna be nice.
Okay, that sounds good.
All right. And George, thank you very much too, because I know, for the 7 years we run this program, every time I reach out to you or call you, like, hey, can you come cover this? Can you do this? Can you post this? You do it like almost immediately, and I really, thank you very much for that.
Well, I like covering the youth
Oh,
sports,
good.
and I've always believed in the benefit of sports to kids.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
That's why we do that. And you want to know something? Before I came to Somerset, I knew nothing about this type of wrestling until Nick Peachy called me and told me to get over there to cover his matches.
Yeah. Sure. At the old auditorium, right?
And I learned about it, and after that, I just had a tremendous amount of respect for what he did.
Yeah. He's such a good guy. Nick's a real good guy. I'm sure he'll be there tonight, being senior night. He's usually
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he usually shows up at the events.
Thank you for tuning in to Somerset Overtime. If you want to get your kids started in wrestling, this is the guy to talk to, Bob Ragonesi from the Raiders Wrestling Club.